Okay, so after the march, during the march, before the march, this thing is just becoming more and more political. As you said, you guys are getting up there and you want to, sort of have your moment, but there are certain issues you don't understand. Were politicians reaching out to you? I know that, Kyle Kashuv has talked to Marco Rubio a couple of times. I mean, how deep did this go in terms of reaching every part of American society?
Sure. We reached out to a lot of people, and a lot of people reached out to us. There were a lot of conservatives that we were speaking to about the issue. I have a couple friends who went to gun groups to talk about it, sat down with some very big gun advocates in their areas, not really in the country, but notable where they were, to talk about the issue. And I know that the rest of my group was really interested in opening up and talking about this. Again, I was the shitty one in March for Our Lives. I wanted to stir some shit. I wanted to cause trouble. I wanted to own the conservatives the same way a lot of conservatives want to own the libs. I mean, that's what it's about right now. People play games where they're trying to one-up each other, and I was trying to do that. I was trying to make politicians I didn't like look bad, as opposed to say, what can we do?
Yeah.
When I went up there, and
were your folks or anyone saying, maybe ease up on Twitter, or just because you're going to get, no matter what, even if everything you said was factually right and came from the right place and all that, just the amount of hate you're going to get while you're still a young person in mourning, it cannot be fun.
My mom is, her sole existence in the world is to make everybody in the world happy and love each other. So she said to me, be nice and loving. My dad, who is a bit of a political advocate himself, agrees with me on a lot of things. And sometimes he would tell me to ease up. Sometimes he would tell me to, be a little bit rougher. But he also said, and this is why I think my parenting from my mom, stepdad, dad, stepmom was so great, was they said, do what you think is right and don't let people put their hooks in you. And I did. I let people manipulate me a bit because I thought that they were kindred spirits. But I'm lucky enough to have parents who say, believe what you believe. My parents are all liberal, but if I came home and said if I came home with a Trump 2020 hat, which I do not expect to do, unless some drastic change happens in my life.
Yeah. Although I know you're not thrilled with the Democrats at the moment.
I'm not thrilled with Democrats at the moment, but I'm not thrilled with Democrats at the moment because they're not being good Democrats, not because they're Democrats. But we'll get to that. But if I came home and I told my parents that I would vote for the opposite of what they would vote for, they would say, if you're doing it because you think it's right, you're going to do it. And I'm very grateful for that.
Yeah. So where do you stand on gun control generally? Because I think what happened was at the event, at March for Our Lives, there were a lot of people getting up there and they were saying things that implied, and I think this is the way a lot of people on the right took it, it's not about sensible gun control. This is ultimately about taking away all the guns. And that, of course, is the fear of most of the people on the right. And there were a couple of the students, there was one young girl, I don't remember who, said, we're going to start with bump stocks, but we're coming for all the guns, or something to that effect. And that feeds right into the people on the right who go, all right, well, now we're not going to talk, we're not going to negotiate.
You guys aren't kids who like better laws, you guys are Mao Zedong.
Exactly. And then because of that, then the people on the left and all you guys go, well, all right, see, now they don't want to talk at all, so we're not going to talk, and then you end up sort of exactly where we're at the moment.
It's somebody told me this the other day. It's a brilliant point. The left and the right attack each other's worst arguments, and that does nothing for us. But when it comes to my personal stance on guns, there are some differing opinions amongst my friends from March for Our Lives, but we all agree with some similar things. Personally, I think that as long as people who are responsible can carry concealed firearms, particularly handguns in the country, in many situations the country is a safer place. I also think that there is not a strong vetting process for people to purchase these firearms, and a lot of people just get guns, and a lot of these people are not the good guy with the gun. Because I think the good guy with the gun argument is just a hasty generalization. I understand it in some ways, because I intend to concealed carry when I'm an adult, because I intend to have a family, and I intend to shoot anybody who tries to kill my family. And
I assume that even that position right there probably puts you on the outs with a lot of your crew.
Well, the outs
right?
Conceptually, we all respect each other's opinions. Yeah. If somebody in March for Our Lives, and this is nobody in March for Our Lives, but if somebody said, I want to eliminate all guns, I'd say, okay, well, let's talk about that. So, my friends respect me for what I think, and I respect them. It's difficult. It's a difficult thing to respect people who disagree with you for those things.
Do you find that, guys and girls your age are able to have these conversations without killing each other? That was a terrible choice of words. Without being at each other's throats,
I think
more than adults are right now. Is that possible? Because that seems to be a through line with you, that you're friends with a lot of people of different opinions.
I think we want to. I think that a lot of people who want to aren't taking the right steps because they're saying, yes, we can come to some common ground if you agree with me. And there's a want out there, and that's something I'm really interested in, because I come from a generation that I believe puts principles and morals over money and political victories. And I think that we've actually got a bright future. Now, people will call me an insane Bobby Kennedy moron for saying that we have a bright future, but I think we do. I think we need to destigmatize the conversation. I have a lot of friends who before 7 months ago, I would have thought were racist, sexist, bigot homophobes who want the country to explode and want to destroy everybody who isn't exactly like them. And then I learned maybe that's not the case. Mm-hmm. And I have a lot of friends who would have thought that I was some leftist beta cuck shill who wanted the communists to take everybody's guns and kill them. And then they learn maybe that's not the case. I think our generation really is moving in a good direction when it comes to smart conversations. I just think we need a bit of a social revolution there. Not a huge social revolution. Mm-hmm. I love social revolutions. This isn't a big revolution. Cool it, Beatles.
You don't think we're at Les Mis level yet?
We're not at Les Mis. Yeah. We're not hearing the people sing the song of angry men yet.
Yeah.
But we need a movement towards respecting each other, because look, before all of this, if I could have gotten rid of the right, I would have. And I know people who would have gotten rid of the left if they could have, but it's not going to happen. The parties might evolve over time. I mean, the parties are flipping in a lot of ways, too. Well, think about this. The party of Lincoln is the only party that currently, well, not the Democrat, there are some Democrats who are like this, but the majority of people who are running as admitted white supremacists are part of the party of Lincoln. Mm-hmm. So a lot of switches happen there. I mean, you've got some really awful rhetoric out there from folks like Candace Owens, who will talk about the left plantation. Look, I think identity politics are dangerous, but saying that the real racists are the Democrats is a hasty generalization. I think
there's actually some truth to it.
Well, there's a difference between the liberals and the left.
Mm-hmm. Well, now you're speaking my language.
But the thing is, you can't pigeonhole them together. Mm-hmm. Is pigeonhole the right word for that?
Yeah.
Okay, you can't pigeonhole them together. I'm a liberal, but I think that all men and women are created equal and need to be respected equally. Whereas people farther to the left will say, as a white cisgender heterosexual male, I don't have the right to say any of that. Look, a friend of mine, Michael Skolnick, who I've worked with before, said something to me that I really appreciated, which was, you can't judge somebody by the hand they're dealt, you judge them by how they elect to play that hand. Mm-hmm. People farther to the left will judge me by the hand I'm dealt. I grew up in a pretty well-off family. I had a pretty easy childhood. I could have walked around my neighborhood without fearing death, which is something that some of my friends I made in Chicago were not able to have. But they'll say that my opinion is less valid than anybody's because I don't deal with the struggles they do. I have an incredible amount of empathy for people who are not as privileged as I am. I believe that white privilege exists. I don't believe it's as systematic or really structural as people say it is. I don't think the government exists to oppress people, but white privilege, I believe, exists. I believe that there are certain situations where I will be in a better place because I'm a white cisgender heterosexual male. Again, it's not this large oppressive force that people treat it like, but it's something we need to address. And that's the real thing I'm talking about recently, which is we can find common ground on these issues and not try to push each other away. Mm-hmm. Because in my view, white privilege exists. Mm-hmm. And people will say, well, no, because in many situations on the SAT, African American students were given points and Asian students were deducted points. And that proves that well, I got myself into an...
Yeah, well, I don't want to... We don't have to go too far down that road, because we could have a whole other conversation on that, because I actually don't agree with you on that, but that's the point of this. I mean,
exactly.
That's the point, and I'm still learning, you're still learning. It's kind of a beautiful thing, actually.
Yeah. I'm 17, I can hardly spell. I'm not the expert on shit. And that's actually the point of the new podcast I'm putting out pretty soon. It's called Cameron Knows Nothing. Do you watch Game of Thrones?
I do.
Look, Ygritte told me. Yeah. I know nothing. And it's true. I have my own personal views on abortion. I watched a video of yours where you and I have pretty much the same exact view. I'm a 20 weeks guy. But I also have not taken enough science classes. I also I have not conversed with enough women who have had abortions. My opinions mean jack shit, but I'm allowed to have them. I'm a 17-year-old boy, so there's only so much I could truly say about pro-life versus pro-choice, but I'm allowed to say it.
Yeah.
And, in Cameron Knows Nothing, I'm going to tell you guys what I think, but it doesn't mean it's right.
Yeah. Where do you think that attitude comes from within you? Because it seems to me that I think a lot of what's happening right now is I see adults that are now afraid to say what they think. And, they think that the mob's going to come after them, which is completely legit. They think it might hurt their job opportunities.
Both sides have a mob.
Or things like that. Yeah, the mob, whichever way it is, right? I mean, but we see boycotts on both sides, and I think a lot of misguided anger often. But I think most people need a little bit more of what you just did there, which is, I just am what I am, maybe convince me of some other stuff, but I'm trying to learn here.
I don't want to hurt anybody. I want the government to crack down on guns. That doesn't mean I want the government to oppress you. I believe that there's a certain amount of time somebody should have access to an abortion, and I think that abortions should be more accessible just for a certain amount of time. But I don't want to kill babies, and I don't want to oppress women. I want the world to be a better place. You want the world to be a better place. I don't know about anybody up in the booth, but they seem really nice.
Yeah, they're pretty good.
Todd McFarlane.
I hand-selected these people.
Exactly. Todd McFarlane wants the world to be a better place. David Hogg wants the world to be a better place. Jordan Peterson wants the world. Pretty much all of us do.
I'm actually glad you mentioned Jordan Peterson because I'm on tour with him right now.
Yes.
And one of the things that I find is, first off, I meet a ton of people your age. I'd say the bulk of the people that are coming there are young people, probably right around your age, 17, 18, into their probably early 30s, and it's male, female, gay, straight, black, white, the whole thing. But it's very obvious to me that he's providing some level of guidance that somehow it seems that your generation kind of missed. Now, it sounds like your folks are pretty great and your extended family and all that, but do you sense that there is some missing piece here that partly, I don't know, that there's like I discussed this last week with Peter Thiel, that there was some disconnect between the baby boomers, my parents' age, and that my guys, the Gen X people, we never had our moment or something, and then we've sort of handed it off to you guys, the millennials. And that there's
Gen X?
I'm Gen X.
Oh, I'm Gen Z, actually.
You're Gen
I'm not
Z?
a millennial.
Wow.
Millennials are 3 or 4 years older than I am.
All right. Oh man, we're all in trouble.
I don't want to feel bad here.
But that we handed it off to the generation of people who grew up with cell phones, immediate access to knowledge.
Cell phones are the best and worst thing to ever happen to us.
Yeah.
If I want to get to a hospital, I can get to a hospital much easier with a cell phone. If I want to look up a fact, forgetting the fact that facts are difficult right now, because it's a fact that facts are difficult to find.
That is a fact.
I can do it. But also, before all of this, I was very, very obsessed with my own image. Not because I thought I had a good one, but because I wanted it to be good. Mm-hmm. I was posting things online because I wanted people to think I had a cool life. I mean, I did. I had a great life, but I wanted people to know that. And the hyperconnectivity of social media, which is a term I stole from many Ben Platt interviews where he's talking about his musical Dear Evan Hansen. I don't want him to see this and think I'm stealing from him. The hyperconnectivity of social media is a good and bad thing. But I think the problem here, and I think that folks like Jordan, I'm a big fan of Jordan, I'm a big fan of yours, don't get a big head. People like you guys, one of the things that you advocate for is conversation. And people on the right, young people on the right that I know and I'm friends with, they want to own the libs. Mm-hmm. This is all about proving them wrong and saying like facts don't care about your feelings. I agree, facts by definition don't care about your feelings, but there's also logic, which is kind of the middle between the two, really. And that's the interpretation and the insight and the fact where, if we only based everything in facts, which a lot of young people on the right do, we're just talking about the past. You can't look at the future, and you can assess facts, but a lot of young people on the right want to prove people wrong, and a lot of young people on the left I've seen want to make people who disagree with them look worse. It's all about making the other look worse. The right wants to show that the left is a bunch of commies, and the left wants to show that the right's a bunch of fascists, and that's a waste of time. That is what is harming our country right now. I think Donald Trump's rhetoric is dangerous and harms our country, but Trump is a symptom of something greater, like President Obama said when he made his return that made all of my liberal friends think Jesus came back, which is, Trump is the result of a country where the people who love Trump are loving him more than ever, and the people who hate Trump are hating him more than ever because we're divided. Our rhetoric is driving everybody in different directions. That's why you see the rise of democratic socialism, and that's why you see the rise of more and more people coming out and saying things that are stupid because they have the First Amendment right to do it. Look, if you say something I don't like, I will defend it with my life. I will defend with my life your right to say it. But people are mixing being not PC and being a jerk. And right now we're driving apart. We need to come together, stop attacking each other. Both sides are equally as guilty. Certain sides in certain situations are obviously guiltier, but it's bullshit.
So do you sense a little more flexibility on the ability to talk to people on the right than on the left? Because that's been a sort of big part of what's going on with me. Like, I get invited to go to these conservative things in Turning Point USA, and I talk about being gay married, and I'm pro-choice and against the death penalty and all of these things that are thought of as leftist things, but they invite me, we have a great time, I take a zillion selfies with the kids after and all that stuff, where there doesn't seem to be that flexibility over there. Now, I don't want to harp on this because I get your greater point, which is we got to get past this.
Sure, nonsense. But it's worth talking about.
But I do see something on one side, especially with young people, that has become more corroded, I would say, than on the other side.
Here's what I'll say. I'll say the left cares too much about people and the right doesn't care enough. And I'll tell you what I mean, because they're equally as wrong here. Young people on the right will attack you with facts in either positive or negative ways, and they're open to conversation very often, I believe, because they want to prove you wrong. That's what I've seen from that. That's not a fact, it's an opinion. Whereas people on the left want to accommodate for everybody so much that if you say anything negative about anybody that they agree with, they jump to their defense. So I'll bring up the Israel argument, which is an argument that I don't know enough about to form an opinion. I truly do not.
Yeah.
But if you are pro-Palestine...
Well, that sounds like pretty much everybody talking
Exactly.
about.
Being pro-Palestine doesn't mean you hate the Jews necessarily, and being pro-Israel doesn't mean that you hate everybody who you hate Palestinians. But I'll talk to people on the right, and they'll be happier to talk about it than people on the left. But the second I say that Palestine should have land, which again I don't have a firm opinion on, they'll say, "Dude, you're Jewish. How could you say that?" I'll say, because people are people. And then I'll talk to people on the left about it, and I'll say there are a lot of concerns of terror. And they'll say, don't you dare call everybody who's Palestinian a terrorist. And on both sides, so yes, I think the right is more open to conversation, but I think that more people on the right are trying to lure you into a cave where they can prove you wrong. I don't want to be proven right or wrong right now. I want to discuss. Because my opinions on things have changed. My opinions really are not taking a 180. I have all my opinions, but my opinion on opinions is changing. That's the most important thing I'd like to highlight here.
Yeah.
I used to think that, and we've talked about this, I used to think that if you didn't agree with me, you hated people. Now I've learned a different thing, and I'm not, and what I'm advocating for now is, I'm not asking people to change their perspectives. I'm asking people to stop having your feet so firmly on the ground when you're a child. Because I'm a child. I can't rent a car, I can't smoke a cigarette, nor do I intend to. But at the end of the day, I can't tell you with authority about economics. I can tell you what I think. I haven't taken an econ class or a finance class. And we need young people.
You're already doing better than most experts on CNN, I think.
Well, people on the left and the right need to realize that facts are facts, feelings are feelings, logic is logic. But the more and more we try to prove each other wrong, the less progress we're going to make. Because I have had the mindset, which is why I understand it. I've had the mindset where all I wanted to do was just own the conservatives. And I know people who have had the mindset where all they want to do is own the libs.
Yeah. And by the way, I know you're not just saying this because Kyle Kashuv, who I've gotten to know well, who falls often on the other side of this than you, he's now working with Turning Point, and he's trying to strengthen the Second Amendment and all sorts of other things. You guys are friends, and you guys are still able to talk about these things. And I had originally said maybe we could get both of you guys in here, but we thought this would be a good opportunity just to let you do your thing, and I'll have Kyle on separately. But you guys are, despite your differences, you're able to talk.
A lot of things Kyle does I don't like. Almost everything he says I disagree with. There are some things he says that I think are inappropriate. I've said some inappropriate stuff, and I understand if you don't agree with me and you want to come out and speak. I'm proud that I was able to speak after the shooting, and Kyle did too. So I have a deep understanding of his position.
So beyond the podcast, and I will give you my word that I will do the podcast.
Oh, please, no, I was...
Yeah, well, you asked me to do it.
The original email was, can you do my show? And I'm lucky enough to be here.
Yeah, I'm more than happy to do it. We'll make that happen. What do you want to do? Have you really been able to think about it at this point? I know it's sort of an annoying question to ask a young person.
No, I mean, I can't tell you what college I want to go to. I can't tell you where I want to be in 50 years. But I can tell you that right now I want to dedicate my time to doing what I think is the best thing I could do with my platform, because I have a large platform for all the worst reasons, and with great platform comes great responsibility.
Spider-Man.
Exactly.
Uncle Ben said that, I believe.
It was Uncle Ben.
Yeah.
But when you say Uncle Ben on this show, people might be like kindly talking about Ben Shapiro. This is Uncle Ben Parker.
Yeah.
And I have a responsibility to do what I think is right. And what I think is right is advocating for what I believe in, but also making sure that the conversation is mended and healed. Because who better than the people who are about to become adults to try and make sure that our next generation of adults knows how to work together? I mean, you got Nelson and Rubio in Florida. I'll give you a great example. Nelson and Rubio have passed some great bills together because Nelson and Rubio don't see eye to eye, but they are able to put their differences aside. They get along, and I want more of that.
Yeah. Well, man, I know a lot of people are worried about the future, but I mean, it's clear to me that your future is bright, and if we can hand it over, to people like you, we'll be all right. Because this is everything that I've been trying to do here. I think is summed up in the way that you're trying to go forward with life. It's pretty awesome, really. It's inspiring.
I appreciate that. And let me ask you something. I know
Yes.
It's your show. It's your show. We're gonna switch.
Wow, you're flipping it.
Emotionally switch
You
chairs
are
right
in
now.
theater. All right.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So sparkle. So, what are the qualities you're looking for in a candidate if you're going to vote for them over President Trump in 2020?
Oh man, you're really putting me on the spot here.
Yeah, this is my show.
Well, look, I've said this before, but it seems to me that unfortunately the Democratic Socialist wing of the Democrats has gone really far left. I mean, look, the word socialist is in the title now,
At least,
and
they're being
that they've
honest.
purged. Right, I guess they're being honest for what they are, and they're fighting for what they believe in. I happen to disagree with virtually all of it, but that they're doing that. They've basically purged what I think are the remaining liberals, as you said, classical liberals before. And I think, unfortunately, that leaves a lot of us. It's why people watch my show, because I've just been honest about what I see here. That leaves a lot of us suddenly with allies in places that we didn't think we were going to have allies. And it's sort of unfortunate in one way, because you want to always think that you can sort of stay home and fix things.
You got to pop the bubble.
But at the moment, I find my allies certainly are libertarians on the right. I think I can, be allies in a lot of ways with Ben Shapiro, even though we have differences on the margins, like with abortion and some of that other stuff. But I don't see, at the moment, from when we're taping this right now, I just don't see any hope in the short term for the Democrats. My hope is that this thing implodes, that they probably have to get crushed in the midterms, which is not looking likely, but that they get crushed in the midterms, and then they have a major course adjustment where they go, we've got to return to liberalism.
Sure.
And that is the answer, because I believe liberalism is the answer. I think it's the only answer. But if you know somebody that I should be paying attention to, let me know, because I don't see much.
We'll keep in touch, and I know
You've got a list. You got a list in there somewhere.
I'll send you some liberals.
Yeah.
One more thing. I know we're bad on time.
Yeah.
What is your favorite musical, and with which musical character do you identify the most?
Oh man,
Yeah,
you're
no,
really
this is-
going for it.
this is
I'd
my show,
rather
man.
do favorite superhero movie or something, but
Well, what's your favorite superhero movie? Let's go to that.
well, I was telling you during the break that I really thought Infinity War was spectacular. I think it
Yes.
was just done right. Loki has to be dead, though. That's the key thing.
But here's the thing. I love Gamora. I think she's an amazing
I know.
character. She's a badass. But if they bring her back, which they will,
They're
because
gonna bring her back.
She was killed in the process of getting the Soul Stone, so they could say that once they destroy the stones or whatever, however it may be,
Right.
that they could bring her back. And it'll be nice to see her back because I love her as an actress. I love her chemistry with everyone.
Yeah.
But that was a powerful
I
death
know.
for me.
You can't keep killing people and bringing them back. That's why Loki has to be dead this time, which they basically made it sound like, yeah, we're not
I
messing with you.
Infinity War did a good job with, you know, Tony's been in MCU for what, like 20 movies?
Yeah.
And he didn't die. Gamora, this is her third film, and I felt that.
Yeah.
I felt that death.
I hate to tell you, but hate to tell you or whatever. She's going to be alive. But putting that aside,
Guardians 3 is
favorite
gonna be a
musical.
joke.
You know, I'm not a huge musical guy. I'm not. I know you don't want to hear that as a theater guy.
Yeah, no.
Not a huge musical. I
gotta have one.
liked Mamma Mia. Is that,
Okay.
you know?
We can find some common ground.
We
there.
can get some
Mamma
common.
Mia's-
See, that's what it's about. Common ground.
Exactly.
Listen, man, we could have talked about Marvel movies and all these other. You gave me a lot of funny pop culture references before we started.
You have to, you know, break new ground, and that's what I was trying to do here.
That's what it's all about. I have no doubt you have a bright future, and you're probably going to be president. Is that where this is all leading?
President of Stoneman Douglas High School's drama club? No, because my dear friend, she ran and she's doing a phenomenal job.
On that note, guys, follow Cameron on Twitter. It's Cameron_Kasky.